Paranormal Dimensions is a regular feature on Mondays on the Paranormal UK Radio Network.
Good day to you. This is Sir Patrick Moore, and you're listening to the Paranormal UK Radio Network, the UK's biggest paranormal radio network, and this is Paranormal Dimensions with David Young. Paranormal Dimensions is as bright and powerful as our celestial star, the sun. And although it's expending thousands of pounds of energy every minute of the day, have no fear. There's plenty left.
Hello and welcome to the show. Thank you for that intro, Patrick. Okay, now a few months back I had Indigo Phoniex on the show, and the show was so interesting I promised I'd have to get her back on. So, and I'll tell you a bit more about Indigo. Indigo Phoniex is a natural born white witch. She is an international psychic trance medium with unique spirit communication, transfiguration, clairvoyance with precognitive ability, with a bloodline that can be traced back to ancient Egypt and the generation of Roman Gypsy. Her ability comes from a long ancestral line of psychics. Indigo has provided countless readings all over the world, including Arabian royalty and celebrities, both in the UK and abroad. She has a unique X-ray that allows her to see the root cause of problems within her clients' bodies, helping them to heal from their issues and move over obstacles, frequently resulting in them getting much needed medical treatment. Indigo channels messages directly from spirit, giving guidance to those in need, and she is often shown world events in key detail. She has been involved in remote viewing and inside the Super Soldier program. Indigo has also had UFO encounters since a child and deals in all things relating to the occult, but specialising in exorcism and demonology, attachment, release, crossing over earthbounds and spellcasting. She has travelled to Mexico and spent time with one of the lost man shamans, exchanging knowledge and practice across the cultures. Additionally, Indigo has also travelled around the Middle East into the Sahara Desert to reconnect with her ancestry, sitting with Bedouin and Nubian village elders. Okay, right, joining me today is the lovely Sacha Christie. She's going to be helping me out today with the talk that we're going to have with Indigo. Hiya Sacha, how are you doing?
Hey darling, I'm alright, how are you?
Lovely, thank you. And how's the world treating you?
Alright, I've got a very small bubble anyway, so I don't feel like massively impacted.
Yeah.
I miss my family, obviously. We'll be able to see them soon in our social distancing.
Oh, I know.
But yeah, I'm actually fortunate. I mean, I have been thinking about people in high rises and, you know, stuck at home with children on their own or just being on their own. It must be very, 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 very difficult.
Well, I think there's people going through hell out there. You don't actually sort of realise.
Yeah.
I mean, we're lucky where we are. We sort of live out in the middle of nowhere, so it's not really a lot of difference, you know, to us. But I can imagine.
Well, we've got a nice big garden, so we're not trapped inside. And
what with lovely sunshine and everything, it's
I know, yeah.
Up and you haven't spoken to Indigo yet, have you?
Yeah, well, yeah, we do talk on Facebook as well.
Yeah, that's right then. So we'll bring her in and say hello now, dude.
Okie dokie.
Right. So welcome to the show, Indigo Phoniex.
Hi, David.
Hello, and we've got Sacha with us today as well.
Hi, Indigo.
Yeah.
Hi, Sacha.
So I don't know how much you've spoken to Sacha before. I know we had a little chat before the show, but I don't know how well you know Sacha, but I thought it would be a good addition for the show because I know I think you're very much of a single mind between you. I thought you'd really bounce well off of each other, and I can sit back and let you get on with it. But I know on the show when you were on before, Indigo, you were saying about there were things that you might not want to talk about. So really, you can take the show wherever you like, and I know there were a lot of things that you thought you could cover that that we couldn't cover before. So I don't really know where you want to start.
Can I jump in at this point?
Absolutely, Sacha.
Because you said something before about like near-death experiences. Now we've talked a little bit on Facebook. We've never had a conversation, but we have on Facebook, and we tend to agree with a lot.
Yeah, definitely.
But we've already talked about kind of being telepathic and how we become psychic, however that happens. One of the things that happened to me was I had a drug poisoning at the age of 4 and was in a coma. So I've always wondered if that's why things have been so spooky around me all the time, because it took me a long time to realise that I was actually a haunted person and not living in haunted houses. It was me, So I wondered if it was, connected to a near-death experience. And you yourself, you said you've had a few near-death moments. I wondered if, anything kind of unusual had happened spiritually, or, did you have like an NDE at any point?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. It's a tricky one because, in my bloodline anyway, I come from a family that are full of psychics and witches anyway. But I do think what opened that up in me, or I think definitely the psychic side, was my first near-death experience, when I was younger. So with the sea, when I nearly drowned, I did drown. After that, that's when I think kind of, in a way, I'd call it the vortex opened up. At the time I didn't connect it with that, but then I think that was the trigger point for me. And I've spoken to a lot of people about this, kind of friends and people that I've connected with. And interesting enough, the ones that have had really profound, experiences, whether that's with the kind of ET sides, whether that's with the spiritual, the psychic mediumship sides, of just really kind of eerie things happening. The one thing that's consistent that we all have in common is that they've either all had near-death experiences, or they've flatlined, or they've actually died, whether that's through kind of, operations that have gone wrong, or, kind of drug overdose or accidents or things like this. It's all triggered something in them, and they've all seen, similar things. So it might be a little bit different, but they've all kind of experienced kind of seeing kind of spirit or a different dimension. I know people talk about, when you die, they see, their life flash before them. They speak to this kind of earthly or angelic energy. For me, it was quite different. I had a white light, but I didn't see this angel come down to me. I didn't see heaven. I didn't see God. It was nothing like that, but it was very profound. And I did feel an entity, a being around me, telepathically communicating. And I did have the choice at that time. It was making it itself very clear, did I want to go with them or did I want to remain? And I consciously was I want to go back. I want to remain. I don't want to pass over to wherever it was where they were going to take me. Because at this point, I was very young and I didn't understand, all the things that I do now.
I just want to go home.
Yeah, but the weird thing is, and I don't know if you felt this too, I had such a profound state of peace. It was this unbelievable feeling that I cannot even put into words. And even to this day, it almost feels like there's something missing in me. And as you just said, this feeling about wanting to return home, I've always felt. And I don't know if I'd feel this if I hadn't had this experience. And I think it is due to that. I've always felt like I don't belong here. I felt like something is missing. It's like I'm constantly trying to find or search for who I am or to find that inner peace again. And it just hasn't happened. And I feel like in my life there has been a lot of chaos, there has been a lot of tragedy, there's been a lot of upset, there's been a lot of serious, crazy things. And people have said to me, and I'm pretty sure you're similar, you know, you could write a film, it could be a Hollywood blockbuster, you couldn't even make this stuff up. And I'm like, what attracts these things to me? And I think it is definitely that maybe some sort of portal, or I open myself up to something due to those experiences. But it definitely has changed my life. And I do definitely think that encounter with what happened definitely like flipped a switch on. And I don't know if that's the same for you.
Well, I didn't see a white light. I saw a ball of fire, so I thought, shit, I'm going to hell.
I was going to say, Sasha, before you jump in, Sasha, can I jump in? What you were saying about given the choice to come back. I don't know if I've mentioned it before, but my wife Jill died quite a few years ago before I knew her. And she actually she saw a white light, and she said she was given the choice as to whether to come back or not. It wasn't like, she was sort of went off somewhere and you were sort of basically led into the light. She was actually given a choice to come back, like you said, which I found quite interesting.
Wow, no, you've never told me this, and I'd love to speak to her maybe at a later date about
hopefully
that.
you're going to visit us anyway, so you'll be able to have a good talk about it. And because she's never quite understood that herself, you know, she felt like she had to come back and finish something.
Yeah, like for me, I just felt like I didn't want to pass over at that time. I think that I was thinking very much about my family, my loved ones, but it was weird because it was like something was trying to erase my brain. It was trying to erase my memories. And at first I was going through the kind of terror, because I was drowning. I was in the sea, I couldn't breathe, so I'm going through the bodily functions and my body starting to shut down, that fear. And then after a while, it was like I could breathe. I felt like I was floating. The panic was going away. And then, as I said, there was this brilliant white light around me. And then I felt this energy. Now, I didn't see it. I felt it. And I felt like it lifted me up. And it was communicating telepathically. And it was saying to me, don't worry, keep calm. It's going to be okay. I'm not going to hurt you. And then I'm like, I don't want to die. And I'm thinking, I'm going to die. I'm dying here. I knew this. And then it was trying to comfort me. And then it was like, I was thinking about my mom. I was thinking about my family. And then it was trying to erase my brain. And it was like I was getting amnesia, like I couldn't remember where I was, who I was. And it was trying to say to me, forget your mum, forget about this. It's okay. But then my will was fighting against it, saying, no, I'm not going to forget. I'm not going to forget. And then I was saying, I don't want this. And then it said to me, are you sure? Because you can come with us. If you come with us, it's going to be okay. But then I said, no. And the next thing, I kind of was washed up on the shore. People were around me. They were shaking me. I'm spewing up water. And then literally the next day, I just felt such sadness and a wave of depression. And I didn't even know what depression was really back then because I was such a young child. But looking back on it now, I understand that feeling. And I really feel, ever since then, it's kind of, I've longed to go back and to have that experience and that feeling. And I've never had that. And it sounds strange, right? Because obviously, you know, I'm like dying.
It doesn't sound strange to me at all because I've got this kind of displacement disorder or whatever where I just half of the time I don't even feel real. You know, the stuff that's happened to me, it's so bizarre that it's made me feel like I'm not even real half of the time. You know, it's like, what is reality? You know, we're fed one line and that's not my experience of it. So I have felt like I'm absolutely crazy, but actually it's not, it's just my situation that is.
It's the most weirdest feeling, isn't it? Because a part of you, it's like after you've gone through something like that, and especially with the things that I've seen and what's happened to me and what I've experienced, it's like part of my rational brain is like, this is insane, this is madness, like this happens in films. And then the other side of me is like, this is reality, this is the truth. And it's so difficult, and in a way I've kind of gone onto autopilot, and it's almost like I'm observing myself in a film, and I think similar to what you're saying, it's almost like dissociation, or the only way you can cope with it is, quite honestly, there's a part of me that thinks, you know, why haven't I gone actually insane? Because a lot of this stuff would literally, it would break somebody, and I know now that everything around us, it's not real. It's not what we think it to be. It's almost like an illusion. So again, with David Icke, I mean, I like David Icke. I don't agree with everything he states, but when he talks about almost like living in a virtual reality game, it almost feels like that at times.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And when I try and explain this to people, I can see their look on their faces. And it's, I mean, even for some people to comprehend and believe in psychic mediums who speak for spirit, you know, that can be a bit out there for some people, let alone all the other stuff that's happened. It can be a really lonely place. There's a lot of things that I keep to myself and I don't put out on public forums.
Likewise. Yeah.
You just can't, but then you think, you know, who talk to, because, you know, people are going to lock you up. I
know, it's like people keep saying to me, you need to write a book, and it's like, well, I can't be completely honest in the book because I can't tell you everything that's happened because it's just so ridiculous, and you would never believe that all of that stuff would happen to one person, you know. And so I'm like, I want to do it because I think it'd be cathartic for me, but at the same time, it's like, I don't even feel like I can put it out there.
I don't think the world will be ready for half of it. You know, a lot of people say that they're woke, that they understand all of this stuff, but a lot of people aren't. They're not ready for it. I really don't think they are, and I think the problem is a lot of the books that have been written and a lot of the people out there who are kind of the so-called pioneers or the faces of the movement, I don't honestly think that some of them actually know what they're talking about. And again, it's been very much kind of like sensationalized, or it's been dumbed down, or there's certain things that, again, that have been capped that we can't really speak about because people can't handle it. And it's sad because I know that there's a lot of people out there that probably are having similar experiences that we've had, but they're suffering in silence because there's no one to turn to, and, you know, they can't explain it, and it's not something you can Google. I mean, some of the things that I've had happen to me, and I think, again, from reading your posts, and I think this is where we've connected, is because you can't Google this stuff, and there's no books you can look this up in, because I don't think many people actually understand the nature of some of these experiences. I mean, for example, I don't know if this has happened to you or David, if you've got experience in this, but I call them the shadow beings, shadow people.
Yeah.
That's just how I explain it. Now, I've woken up many a time, okay, and I know the difference between spirit and archangels and spirit guides and all of that kind of stuff. And I've come to believe, and this is just my perception, that I do believe that we have different kind of dimensions, different orders. I do believe we have a angelic realm, and I do think we have a, you know, whether we call that, you know, the shamans, the lower world, the demonic realm, and I do think we've got spirits, and I know that we have ETs, but I think that are different dimensions and different beings. But these shadow beings, it's certainly not a spirit guide, and it's certainly not ET, and it's certainly not, I don't even think demonic as such, but the energy is very different to anything that I understand and know. And I've woken up and I've had them over my bed, or when I'm doing kind of seances, or where I'm connecting in and channeling some serious stuff, or serious like lowdowns on kind of world events. Some that I've put out there, and other things I've kind of kept to myself because, again, I know it's a bit too much and I don't really want to be putting myself out there in that position. But it's almost like they're checking in and watching and observing. I don't know,
they do feel like watchers. They do feel like that to me, and they feel like they are super, super ancient.
Yeah.
And I can't place where they're from, but they're not like they've never been alive, they've never been living.
I must say, I've never seen one, but I've heard a lot of people talk about them, especially on this show. It's quite surprising how many people do see them, to be honest. You know, I mean, I couldn't explain about, are they, like you said, are they something that's just not material? Are they really just a shadow?
I think the more
they are to us in our eyes. I mean, when we see these things, these are just like imprints, aren't they? Their true form is, we can't see it from where we are because they're in a different place. And however they've managed to come into this existence, like I've said before, with the reptilians, I've seen them in the shadow form. They can project themselves into this, this dimension where we are, this reality, as a shadow form, like an energy imprint. So
it could be the same thing then, really.
It could be something similar, but I don't think it's anything to do with reptilians. I think there's something all of their own.
Yeah, I agree. I think the energy it feels different. It's really hard to explain, but I do think I go with the ancient side. I do think there are definitely an ancient energy.
Yeah.
I've had some in what I feel may be linked to the ancient sides that may be a kind of for the bats. I haven't had an unsettling feeling, but sometimes with different things that I'm hearing,
you're bouncing a bit, Indigo. Can you hear that?
Yeah, you're breaking up a little.
Yeah, you're breaking up.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better. Yeah, you were bouncing. You were bouncing.
Certain trigger words. I find this in all interviews, or when it comes to, again, when I'm talking about quite ancient things, the electrical stuff.
It'll be your energy, yeah.
I'm like nicknamed the slider because, again, with my ability, and it can happen when I'm really stressed or when I'm excited or even when I'm not if I'm just opened up or tuning in, it can affect either electrical machinery, it can be batteries will just die of energy.
Well, I don't find it strange that you seem to have controlled that now. You said, "Can you hear me now?" And it seems you seem to have controlled it, whereas I thought it was just the internet cutting out a little bit.
It could be. You just don't know. But I do know for a fact that around certain electrical connections, they do kind of go wrong. I've had this a lot, and when I've been with friends and stuff, it's a bit of a nightmare where we've had kind of TVs kind of breaking down or light bulbs blowing. I mean, the light bulbs don't normally blow too much now unless I'm really angry. That used to happen to me a lot when I was a teenager. Really? I'm not even kidding you. The amount of light bulbs I had blown.
That's amazing.
It's just crazy. It's not. It really isn't. But
I collect static as well. I've broken loads of things. I got into my ex's car. He bought it second hand and it had a stereo in it and it has a code. I got in the car and it just reset the stereo, wiped the USB stick of all his music, and he couldn't get the stereo working again because he didn't have the code, because he didn't have he wasn't the original owner. I had a stack of broken things, everything, like you say, light bulbs, even walks under a lamppost and the light went out. So I went back, he did it again. He didn't do it a third time. But people think that it's the bulb, it's not the bulb you're affecting, because everything's down at ground level. So whatever my static was at that point in time, it actually interfered with the mechanisms and the electrics. It's just bizarre. I've broken so many things.
Yeah, my partner, he calls me the witch all the time. Literally when we're having arguments and stuff like this, the lights will blow or there's been power cuts, or I'll say something and he's like, "Oh yeah, I doubt that." And then literally it will happen and then he'd be like, "Oh, you witch," or "We're fighting." And he'll leave. And I'm like, "Don't fall down the stairs." And then in my head, I'm like, fall down the stairs. And literally, I hear a boom, 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 you witch! And I'll look at and he's literally tripped down the stairs. So now I have to be really kind of careful because, again, of the karma thing. When I'm done, I'm not even kidding you, it could be like 30 minutes later or the next day, then I'll fall over or I'll trip up and I'm like, yeah, it's my karma. It's because, you know, I'm putting that energy out. So I've got to be very aware now of like my thought pattern, especially as a teenager. I kind of was going through the angst and going through a bit of a dark patch, and I think again with all my hormones and things like that, you know, I wasn't in control of myself, and that's when there was quite a few kind of mishaps and accidents and things like that. So now I've kind of really learned over the years that I have to kind of be in control and not get angry. If I get super angry, like I will see red, and then that's when everything kind of goes out of control. And I really don't like being in that position. So I don't know if that's the same with you too, Sacha.
Yeah.
And if you go over the edge, and then you just get angry and you think of something, and then boom, it's kind of like law of attraction, like amplified by like tenfold.
Yeah, and I've got a few.
That seems to happen more with women as well.
I can't tell you. Not right now.
It's just women are witches.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I mean. That seems to happen more with women than it would with a man, wouldn't it? I don't really know if that's true what I'm saying, but it just appears to be that.
Yeah, I think I know more women experiences than men, but the men that I do know really have had a horrific time. Why do you think that is, Sacha? And from your point of view, with women having more the contact. I don't know if it's just that we're more open and more likely to talk about it because we talk about everything, don't we? That's how we get through stuff. And men do tend to hold on to things. I don't know if it's like, you know, just one of those unhealthy patterns that men have to put up with, you know.
You see, I don't feel I've got any
been
powers or anything, you see, any psychic powers or anything like that I know about. So I don't know.
Well, I wasn't really referring to psychic, more like abductees. You know, I know more with female, and they're more likely to say that they have certain abilities, whether they're in full control of them or just quirky happenings a lot. We're more open about these things than men. I think, you know, a lot of the time, the things that do happen to men in abductions, like Philip Kinsella, with, you know, literally something shoved up his backside into his stomach. And it's like, not into his stomach, but into his body, you know, cavity. And he's really brave in saying that because a lot of men wouldn't want to say that or you know, they don't want that out there.
Yeah, he doesn't say it quite like that, does he?
Men have a lot to put up with things like that, where they call it toxic masculinity, don't they? And it's like unhealthy patterns that are like society's placed upon men. So, and I don't know, I just think that they're probably not as willing to talk about it as we are. Maybe.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I think also with the empathic side of things, I'm not saying that men aren't empathic, but again with my partner, you know, we've had deep discussions about this because he's also experienced a lot of things. And especially since dating me, it's gone to a whole new level. And again, I don't know for you, Sacha, some of your men, since dating you, you know, or your partners and things like that.
They've never been the same since.
Exactly.
Well, and the phenomenon happens to them as well, and they can't handle it, you know.
Exactly, you know, they might start.
They think that they will be able to, and sometimes they're quite looking forward to it, and they want to know what it's like. Then when it happens, they just freak out, obviously, because, you know, it's absolutely horrifying. Or, like, seeing ghosts in my house is always a bit spooky. You know, Dave, my partner, he could hardly sleep. I came to Liverpool, but he went to Leeds just before we moved in together, and he was looking after my kids, so I could come to Liverpool and do a séance with his sister for Radio City. So, you know, he was terrified all night, and his sister, was a psychic, and she was always on the radio, she was doing all readings and all the rest of it, really well known in Liverpool. And all kinds of weird things happened as a kid, you know, to him. But, yeah, living with me is like a trip. It's been pretty quiet recently though, I mean.
Don't say that, it's all going to kick off
No,
tonight.
but you see, I don't know, it's quiet or I've just got used to the vibe because I do hear weird clicks and bangs and things like that and I go looking and I can't see anything and, my kids are really sensitive as well and they'll say little weird things and I think, right, yeah. So I'll do a little thing to clear it out. But sometimes I just don't notice because I'm not that uncomfortable with that energy because I've always had to live with it. And, I'll ignore myself a lot as well. Something will happen and I'll just go, and ignore it. And then I had a little run of things, a little while ago, so I had to, go around the house doing a clearing because.
Take it off stage.
I perfect it and I live on a crossroads. What, So, it's, and obviously the kids as well, they attract it. It's just been that way always, even when I was a kid. We had all kinds of things going on. And my mum's the same, she has always had it all her life. It runs in the family.
It becomes your norm.
Yeah.
It's for me as well, when I sort of speak to people. And again, like, I'll tell them some of the stuff, and then when their face kind of drops with, like, shock horror or disbelief, I'm like looking at my partner, he's like, you've got to remember, like, this is not their norm. And I'm like, yeah, you know what, it's just so, it gets to the point where, you're so used to it, it's your normality, and it just feels normal. And then I actually forget that when I'm talking to the outside world or people that maybe are not, in the occultic sides or witches or UFO experiences, it does sound literally like a Steven Spielberg film. Yeah. And then I'm like brought back to, like, I guess reality with a crash because they're like, what? I'm like,
I just think that people get paranoid that you can see everything about them, even the so then they freak out as well. But my friendships, they've been quite funny because I always come out with these things, and sometimes I've been told off and shouted at because you shouldn't always say what you're getting because not everybody wants to hear it. You know what I mean?
It's true. I mean, they call it going into some, somebody's handbag. And again, for me, it's a difficult one. It's a balance because sometimes I'll just come out with stuff without thinking.
Me too.
And you'll literally see somebody go white and I'm like, what's up? And they're like, oh, I've got to go or something. And I'm like, what? And then, another friend will say, oh my God, like, do you know what you said? I'm like, not really. Because for me, it's just like, I don't go around trying to read people. I just literally, though, can just see right to the core sometimes, and I'll just say something, and it's a bit too close to the mark, and then people freak out, and then it's difficult, because either people, love it, and they're like, oh God, tell me more, what else do you see? And it's like a double thing. Or then people freak, and they're terrified that I'm gonna, see too much about them, or out them in some way, or they the ignorance, or they misjudge it. And then especially, when they hear that you're a witch, they think, oh, that I'm evil, or I'm gonna do something terrible, or it just makes them feel super uncomfortable, because then they're always like, oh, do you know what I'm thinking? Can you see this? Can you see that? And often I'm like,
what number am I thinking of?
It's like, someone turned to me and said, I was chilling. And they looked at me and they went, did you just read my mind? And I'm like, what? No. And then I'm like, hang on, I just have now. It's kind of like...
Indigo, I'll tell you what I wanted to ask you. All this thing about the lockdown and the virus and everything like that, did you foresee anything about all of this? I know you said you told us all about there's going to be a big toilet paper shortage, and you were right about that. Like worldwide shortage.
Shooting, right? I told you 24 hours before, and you went, oh, I'm just going to go.
I did. I went out and bought. But did you actually see how big and widespread this was going to be, or not?
Yes and no, and I'll explain. So, I didn't know it would be the COVID-19, and I didn't think there was going to be, or I didn't see a pandemic as such. But again, I think a lot of viewers are going to connect with this. For a long time, I would say, because what I originally predicted with some of the world events, I kind of started with the forest fires that I put out, and then I knew there'd be earthquakes. And I put that out roughly about 6 months before they'd actually happened. And if you go back on my timeline, you'll see this. I mentioned about, fires, I mentioned about earthquakes, I mentioned about terrorism things, and they've all kind of happened. And I know people...
In actual fact, they had a couple of... there's some earthquakes over in the States, didn't they, Sacha? And also in Australia recently, so...
Yeah, like I went into some key details with that, and then literally it kind of was like a domino effect, because I've done some other interviews and people said to me, 2020 is going to be amazing, what do you think? And I was always like, no, 2020 is not going to be amazing, but it's definitely going to be very key. Not only because, again, numerology, and on the astrology side, 2020, very powerful number. But for a long time, I felt almost like my head was like a pressure cooker, and I felt something building, and I felt on edge, and I didn't quite know what and why, but I knew that something terrible was happening or going to happen on a worldwide level. And I said to my friends, I said to my close people, guys, listen, something really big and something bad is going to be happening. And when I sat in trance, because privately I will do a circle, and I will keep trying to gain kind of information, trying to connect more with the ancient sides, to channel information, to kind of see things that are coming, what I can do to try and aid kind of humanity, also on a vibrational level, and also with my practices with the witch side of things. And in my information that I was downloading, I was just told that literally things would be changing on a mass level. Good and bad. In a lot of ways with this COVID situation, for the planet, for the world, there's many positive things in this. As we know, the pollution side, with people reconnecting, going back more to basics. But then on the other side, I knew that there would be, I guess, people passing over. I knew that our way of life was changing. I knew that things would be very much out of control, that there wouldn't be many things that we could do to prevent it. It couldn't be stopped. Because when I tune into events, I will always ask, can this be stopped? What's the outcome? And I think the problem is, a lot of people are still being very blinded by the whole COVID. It's much bigger than this. Yeah. And I don't think it's what I've seen a long time ago. I was told, look, be prepared, okay, because it is going to hit worldwide. So, the toilet paper thing, okay, and that's very basic, but I knew at that time my guides were like, look, this is going to happen. I was told, be prepared about food. So instead of like mass hoarding, going out and being crazy and wiping the shelves, I was told a long time ago, you need to start planting your own crops. You need to start learning how to grow organic foods. You need to start learning how to do medicines. You need to look into more nature, plant-based. You need to start connecting with other kind of healers. And I started to kind of work more on my healing abilities and learning how to become more sustainable and looking into like off-grid things, because I knew that society was going to crash. And I also have spoken about that there is going to be like an economical crash to come, and I've spoken about this. And if you saw in some of my predictions, even before the COVID thing actually hit, I spoke about warning that, stocks and shares are going to crash. I knew this for about a year and other things. So in a way, I have got myself prepared with a lot of things. As I said, learning to become self-sufficient. But obviously, there's only so much I can put out, because the problem is, when you have to before it happens, a lot of people will not believe it. So you're going to open yourself up to ridicule, criticism, and trolls. And then there's a balance of not wanting to create like mass hysteria. And then equally, it's really, really difficult, because people don't want to listen. And the only time they're going to listen is when the crap hits the fan, and then it's pretty much too late. So again, the toilet paper situation, when I put it out, people thought, joking. But again, I had to be careful, because then I didn't want to create mass panicking and buying.
It was kind of you created it.
Yeah, I created it. Well, I'm sitting pretty because I get, my toilet paper from Who Gives a Crap. which is monthly, and I was well stocked up. You know,
the funny thing is, I think it was the media itself caused that panic, because they started putting it out about the small shortages, and it just got worse, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's stupidity. I mean, at the end of the day, toilet paper is certainly not going to save you, and you know, it's only so much you can wipe your bum with, and then after it runs out, then what? You know, like worst case scenario, you know, I use water or something. But as I said, going back to the situation, just to give some hints and tips to the future here, it's not the COVID we need to be worried about. A lot of people are like, oh, COVID, when are the shops going to open up? When is it going to be okay? All of this stuff. Now, I could tell you, I could predict, I could say, you know, I could have said this months ago, and I have actually. I've given hints, because again, people listening to this could go, well, you know, it's clear as day, it's obvious. No, it's not obvious. I think it's going to be really the next couple of years, which is going to be challenging now. It's what's going to come after the COVID situation, because at the moment, you know, okay, we're doing okay, but now, you know, we're heading for a massive financial crash. But this has been on the cards for a really long time. It isn't just due to the COVID situation. I do think that we've been heading for a big kind of recession, a crash with so many things.
But that seems to me to have been done on purpose as well, a lot of it. And what that purpose would be, I don't know. We hear about all this, like the New World Order and all that, trying to sort everything out and get everything all under one banner. Do you think that's a possibility? Is that the way it's going? Or they're trying to make it go that way?
Yeah, again, I think a lot of the stuff I tune and tap into, I mean, look, I work, and this is how I believe, is akashically. Okay, I work kind of like on a timeline, or I guess the easiest way is like a film. You know, I can go backwards, I can go forwards, I can stay in the middle, and I tap into the akashic of the past, the akashic currently, and then the future akashic records. But I think a lot of things have been pre-planned, pre-orchestrated. And I'm tapping into certain timelines and things that have already kind of happened that we don't know as such. But I do think very much, I do believe in the New World Order. I know, you know, it's been sensationalized, and I've spoken about this too, about energy rituals, that, you know, the public are taking part in without even realizing. And especially with this whole COVID situation, you know, it's really kind of dividing and bringing out the worst in some people and in some people the good. Do I believe it's fake? No. Do I believe that there are certain things that are happening around it that is fake? Yes. I do think that there is a real virus. Again, you know, I'm not going to get drawn into the whole politics of this or the nature where it's come from, but I do think a lot of people are being controlled by fear, and I do think a lot of propaganda. I mean, I don't watch the news. I don't really like watching media or anything like that. You know, unfortunately, if you're on Facebook and things like that, or living in the society, you know, you can't get away from it. But I, for one, I don't go out wearing a mask. I don't wear gloves, okay, for so many reasons. Am I social distancing? Yeah, I'm trying my best. I mean, look, I'm antisocial anyway. So for me, when people say to me, you know, how are you handling it? How are you holding up? I'm like, great. In all honesty, the only thing that's winding me up is actually there are more people getting in my way, because being a bit of a witch anyway, I'm lucky. I live in the countryside, so there's loads of fields, loads of kind of places in the middle of nowhere. And so for me, where I'd normally walk my dogs in the middle of nowhere where it's peace and quiet, and I do my little rituals and things like that, now every Tom and Dick and Harry is out, like on bicycles. No, seriously, like there's 10, 12, 13 people in the middle of a field. And for me, the irony in this is kind of like, I can't escape it now. It's just packed everywhere I'm going. But for me, I never really would socialize with people. I mean, I have to, with my nature of what I do, being a psychic medium, I'm having to socialize, I'm seeing people, you know, I'm helping people. But I generally like to keep myself to myself. So not much has changed there. This whole kind of like isolation and things like that. You know, that's my idea of a dream. Peace and quiet, not seeing anyone. Perfect.
It's my life as well. So for me, nothing's really changed. You know,
yeah.
I'm lucky, you know, because I know that a lot of people don't have a garden and might be even in blocks of flats or you know, not everywhere is nice, not all landlords are great, you know, people will be having a really hard time, so I'm really grateful for the fact that I haven't really skipped a beat that much, but obviously when we go out we do what we need to do. When we come in, we take our clothes off, wash them, blah blah blah. You know, doing what we can, just being sensible about it, because I don't believe it's fake, but I know that there are spin doctors and they take advantage of situations, and it makes it look like it was all done on purpose because look, they've done all this, but they wait for the opportunists, you know, as well as long range plans, etc. They are opportunists. So, you know, while something like this is happening, they can take the opportunity to nibble away a few more freedoms. Oh
yeah, I do agree with that. I think they've used it. Yeah, definitely.
So it's someone's misery is always somebody else's advantage, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're creating an agenda, and, you know, as always, the same old politicians things, you know, divide, fear, conquer. And for me, I refuse to live in fear. You know, and again, I believe very much about energy rituals, and I know that as soon as you start going to that fear state, you lower your vibration, stress starts to creep in, and what does stress cause? Stress damages the immune system. And for me, I understand that it's crucial, absolutely crucial, what you put your attention to, what you focus on. You're either giving energy or you're taking energy. And I, for one, try to not put my energy towards fear, because I know it's going to lower my vibration, and nothing good is coming out of a low vibration. And for some sectors or kind of people, whether you want to call them Illuminati, psychic vampires, there are certain sectors that work and feed off low vibration. Fear gives them power. And I like to turn everything on its head in a way and put my energy to positivity and raising the vibration. So rather than putting my energy to sickness, fear and death, I'm going to put my energy into love, healing, peace. So I can do things differently. I don't need to be kind of out there in the forefront protesting or, you know, or, banging on about COVID, because if I'm banging on about COVID and focusing on it, I'm putting my attention there and I just don't want to. So I'd rather put up posts about healing, about love, about how to raise your frequency and vibration. Now, I'm not saying that I'm bulletproof and that I can't get sick, because I'm kind of human in a way. And even then, I don't really associate most of the time with being human when I look around and see the stupidity and the craziness of what, you know, humans kind of are doing, and saying that, you know, not all humans are doing, you know, shitty stuff, but I do really think in a lot of ways it's Mother Nature kind of biting back. There's only so much you can, like, do, you know. We're the only kind of animals that destroy, or not animals, but beings that destroy our own habitat, you know?
Yeah. That's the old saying.
Yeah, I said years ago that think positive, I said years ago that things need to change, but what could make things change? It'd have to be something so massive to, you know, stop what we're doing, change the way that we live, you know, try harder at being better than we are. And I mean, you know, corporations, and they need to start taking responsibility, and, you know,
it's difficult because, again, you know, everyone, I think, who has been going through all of this on a worldwide level, you know, people are seeing the skies clearing up, they're seeing the sea clear up, you know, they're seeing the land starting to heal. But then as soon as everyone is allowed out of lockdown and kind of things are kind of dropped a little bit, straight away you're seeing all litter everywhere again. You know, you're starting to see chemtrails back in the sky, you're starting to see people polluting, you know, and straight back to Burger King and KFC and queues as long as the eye can see. And I'm like, this is crazy, you know, people seem to just forget in a heartbeat, literally. And this is the problem. I think the mentality, and the consumerism and the corporate side, but I think in a lot of ways there's going to be a big wake up call, because everyone keeps talking about when are we going to go back to normal. For me, this was never my normal. This is why I've always, my soul has very much been wanting to live off grid and not feeling like I fit in, because with the way society is, I do think we are like a disease. In fact, I think our mentality, it's not normal, but I don't think now we can go back to normal. Regardless when the COVID, clears up, I think that there are going to be many things now that have been put in place that I do think have been designed and have been pre-planned years ago that are going to prevent us from going back to so-called normal. I mean, if you look, they've even changed the law with under the COVID Act. I don't know if you've seen that. There was a lot of people kind of talking about this and posting it about how they've subtly changed major loopholes in the law under the COVID Act. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I have actually been reading that. I was more interested in actually what laws have been created and how they would, apply to us as normal people. So far, I've not really found much, but I've found that a lot of laws have been changed to, like hurried laws to protect people from terrible landlords, banks, loan companies, etc. So people can't be defaulted on the mortgage and evicted for not paying rent, etc. But I haven't read it all. I'm kind of...
There's so much out there, and I think, and I don't know if that's the same with you, David, but a lot I've just tuned out of. Yeah, I'm kind of...
A lot of it, I've thought that we're a free country, and really they can't tell us what to do, basically. Whether that is still the case, I don't know. All these fines and things I think they've been handed out, I thought they were unlawful. That's the way I looked at it. Yeah. And I thought if you took it, and if you actually take it to court, then you could actually fight it and say, well, this is a free country. I've done nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with me.
Because they're not laws. We've been asked to stay in. We've been asked to social distance. We've been told that if we don't, we'll get a fine. But there's no kind of it's not illegal.
No, that's what I'm saying.
To not
so those fines are actually unlawful. So
yeah.
So I do believe that the courts did actually support that fact, didn't they? I know we've gone off the paranormal.
Well, no laws have been broken because they haven't created the laws to say you must stay in and blah, blah, blah. They may have done now, but, it's literally, we've been asked. It's not a mandatory
thing. There's no law, there's no law that says you've got to stay 6 feet away from that person over there.
So they can't take you to court and prosecute you for breaking a law that doesn't exist when the law is implied.
But as we've seen people being carried off because they've been gathered in groups of 3 or whatever, protesting about it. And we see
there was more going on.
And we see a dozen policemen carrying them off to, what happened?
Yeah, and they're not wearing masks, and they're not wearing hand gloves, and they're socially not social distancing, which is the irony.
I know, it's crazy. But what happens after that? After the cameras have turned off, do they just let them go? Because it seems to me that if that goes to court, they're just going to throw it out because they've done nothing wrong.
Well, they probably get to some sort of disorder, conduct in public. If there was any effing and jeffing, you can get arrested for that, certain...
Yeah, but from what I've understood with some of them, they haven't been. All they've done is just been standing there and they just let themselves be arrested. Like that gathering that was up in, was it Hyde Park last weekend?
Yeah, but it was just a lot of vloggers all just shouting at each other and the police.
I think there were more police there than anyone.
I don't know if you guys or Sacha have experienced this, but with the sort of UFO side of things, I've had sort of telepathic communication with some of them, and over the years I've found now they're not always, communicating, and when it happens, it's very here or there, and I can't even tell you what triggers it or why they come. But I do find that they do come and give me warnings at times, or I will get channeled information where they'll tell me, look, a certain thing is going to happen, but they're going to be aiding or they're going to be there to help. And touch wood, again, I feel like I'm protected in some ways. I'm not saying that all are, great and all are, evil, but I feel that some of the energies that I have connected with, I do think they're aiding humanity. I do think, they are good. And I do think they've been trying to give messages. And I've spoken to a few connections that also connect with similar beings to me, and they've even said, you know, that they feel that they've been trying to talk to them in code. They've been giving them symbols they might not completely understand. I, for one, you know, and I think this is going to take the rest of my life to understand and decode what some of the messages are. I know there's some people out there that claim that they've got all the answers and things like that. I certainly don't, you know, make out that I'm an expert or that I've got the answers. I'm trying to piece this together like a puzzle. But I've been shown symbols. I've been shown visions. I've been led to certain locations in the country and the world. And from what I've found and seen, I do believe that there are good ones trying to help us. And I do think there are some good that have actually prevented and stopped certain things happening, if that makes sense.
I mean, I suppose when you think about it, when you kind of think about it, the real world is actually the world beyond this, isn't it? So really, a lot of what happens on this planet doesn't really matter if you look at it from that universal point of view. Do you see where I'm coming from? You know, if we're spiritual beings, all we are is in just like this lump of meat, if you like. So really, when we go, our life goes on into the spiritual realm. So really, a lot of what happens.
We're already there.
Yeah, that's what.
We're already in the spirit world because we are a spirit, but we have a body.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. A lot of what happens on this planet doesn't really matter in the scheme of things.
No, this is just the tip of the iceberg. You know, I think a lot of people are so connected with this kind of life and materialism and stuff. They don't realise there's just so much more than just this, definitely. And I think, again, with my near-death experiences, I've kind of realised that. And I certainly don't fear death. I just don't. I mean, I think a lot of people, you know, we all have a kind of fragile state, you know, when our kind of own mortality, when we have to face that, because, you know, we all think to a degree we're going to live forever. And then when we're faced with the notion or the fear that actually, you know, we might not be, it can be a bit scary. But I, for one, I'm not scared of death. I'm not, because I know that this isn't the end.
My wife says that actually. When you get to speak to her, she has the same feeling, because she had that same experience that you did, you know, and she had that feeling of warmth and love and everything like that. She said that stayed with her all the time, so she doesn't fear it either. So.
No, I don't either.
But yeah, it's an interesting concept. It's just I think that, like I say, a lot of what happens on this planet. I know we all get worked up about everything, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Because I mean,
life is very short, and there's so much in the bigger scheme of things that most don't realise.
Yeah, and when you look at the size of the universe, we're just like a little tiny speck in that universe, you know.
Yeah, yeah. When I had the UFO experience in Wales, you know, with Steve and Dania, that made me feel small. You know, this huge thing, this massive event. And afterwards, like, the words worldview, it's like literally I'm in space looking back at the world, and I'm like as small as a grain of sand, smaller in fact. You know, it made me feel my size in the universe.
Yeah, I don't know if Indigo knows about that experience of yours, does she?
I'm not sure.
No, I don't know.
Well, I went to Wales with my boyfriend and his sister, uncle, and I had my son, and Dania had her son. And it's quite a long story, but basically we saw Steve saw a little UFO, then he called me out, and I saw it eventually. And then it stopped moving away from us and started coming towards us, and it was absolutely massive. And it was over the top of us after however long, and then there was this kind of strobe light that hit the side of the house, and when I turned back to look, there was like a sphere on the ground. So there was a huge craft in the air right above us, and it had zeroed in on our location, and another one had somehow got underneath these trees behind us. Don't even know how it got there. And there was stuff running around. My son saw a hand come through the hedge. He thought it was the hedge and the light, but it was a hand, and it touched his foot. I had something run up behind me and bump into my back. Oh, it was absolutely messed up, and we're all messed up from it. So, yeah, that was, and even my son still remembers it. He still has the fear, you know. It was insane. It was literally Close Encounters insane.
It seems to be
you
that
know.
when you have these experiences, it's like Ronnie and Philip Kinsella said, you could have a UFO right over your house and nobody else can see it. It seems to be like it can be visible to only certain people.
Well, that's why I think it interacts with our consciousness, because I think it can manipulate what it is that we're seeing. Like in our, visual cortex, it's messing around in there somehow in our minds. Because once when my son, he was 3, and we had this really weird cloud outside the window. I was at 4-story Victorian terrace, and they had big picture windows upstairs, and he was like, he wouldn't look out the window because of the spaceship, but I didn't know what he was trying to say, so I grabbed hold of my chin and he pushed my head to look outside. So I turned to my elder son and I said to him, what, is he saying something? Because he was frightened and he wasn't talking, and he wasn't like he was making it up and making a story up to be all getting attention. He was really genuinely freaked out. So, it looked like basically a flying saucer shaped cloud, but it was almost like it was 1D sort of stood up almost. It did look weird, but we couldn't see it the way that he was seeing it because he was really scared. And there was a lot going on in that house at that time. Like, the whole family went through some really messed up stuff. Spiritually, it was so badly haunted. Oh my God.
I think
the annex of hell.
I think especially with children, because of their consciousness and their innocence, I do think there's something about children's energies that are like a beacon, or they draw, or, paranormal things are drawn to children. And I think also because they're more unpolluted and their minds are, not programmed, and they've not been kind of, programmed, like when you get older, TV, the media and people, you kind of lose that kind of natural psychic edge. But kids, the innocence there, I really think that's what so many kind of have experiences. And I think the ET sides of things and also the spiritual realm, they definitely connect more with children, if that makes sense. Because again, I've got a lot of friends that are gifted and they're children. They've gone through loads of experiences, and the children have seen the phenomena as well.
Well, in that house that we were in, my son, he would be telling me that there's a dead boy behind the sofa. I had to pull the sofa out and look and say, look, there's nothing there. But obviously he was seeing him and he was talking to him as well. We used to find him, like talking, when we say, who are you talking to? And he'd just shake his head and look down like he wasn't allowed to tell us. We asked loads of questions. We just got shakes of the head. No, or I don't know. And I got into bed with him one night and the bed moved, like from side to side. It wasn't me getting in it. I was laid still, and it shook side to side 3 times. Like 1, 2, 3. And really fast as well. And no way could anybody move that bed like that. Oh my God, I got out of that. I just picked him up and screamed, get the F out of my house now. Slammed the door and took him upstairs, and I just had him sleeping with me, and then I just had to leave the house. I think if I hadn't left it, it would probably have killed me.
No, I totally believe what you're saying there, because I've seen, I've done a lot of investigations on houses, I've done house clearances, I've done paranormal investigations, and also in certain locations that I've been in, I've had apparitions happen, I've had teleportation, I've had, things thrown at me literally out of nowhere. It's crazy.
Same for all of the above. I've been looking for things, can't find them. With a friend in one house that I lived in, some bright blue tablets, and I kept them in a white ice cream tub with all the paracetamol, etc. So anyway, my friend, she was saying she had some water retention. I was like, oh, I've got these things. So we went looking for them, pulled out the box, not in there. and my kitchen and bathroom were next to each other in the cellar. So I went in the bathroom and I was looking, couldn't find them. Came out of the bathroom, back into the kitchen. The white tub on the side and the worktop, they were in there face up, and I was like, look, I said, Ali, look, they're there. And she said, oh, just 'cause we're talking about you. Because, oh God. So all of that stuff, I've had it all, and people wonder why I'm so freaked out. It's just like, you just don't know what's coming next. So like, you're just walking through a door into another room, and boom, there you go, there's something stuck there.
You just, like, I don't ban eyelid now. I've had it so much, and I've had the amount of TVs I've lost. Literally, I've lost about 4 TVs that have flown off the wall. No, I'm not even kidding you. I don't even have one now on the wall. I've got to the point now, after 4 TVs and them all smashing and literally flying off the wall, to the point I've had like the hooks bent out of the wall. And then interesting enough, when I did, because I experiment with kind of different plant-based medicines, and I do kind of a lot of trance work and things, and when I'm downloading or I'm doing journeying, I'm getting some profound visions, and then the next thing I've like kind of come round, and then I've had like my extractor fan fly off the wall, literally fly off, smash, and I've had the fire alarm go off and there's no smoke. I've had the gas detector just like going off, there's no gas, there's no nothing. And then when I've gone to look, I've had them like really screwed in with reinforcements. The hinges are like bent backwards. Literally, there's a hole in my wall, and it's not like it could have just naturally fallen down due to kind of it not being put in properly, or just, you know, it being old. It's literally been ripped out of the wall, and it's always been on kind of key things, or if I've been doing kind of a lot of really intense spiritual work, or again, profound downloads, I guarantee, whether it's 24 hours later, 48 hours later, you know, there's something that always kicks off, whether that's kind of, as I said, you know, things breaking or smashing or lights blowing, or the next thing, you know, I'm having black helicopters flying around my property. And I'm talking about not just normal helicopters, they're military, like Chinooks, or, again, I'm not like an expert in all of this, but, you know, it becomes definitely a bit surreal. And it's kind of almost like psychically getting a kick, and then I'll get psychically like attacked. Not all the time, but then afterwards, then that's when I'm having like shadow people over my bed, or I'm having kind of people like trying to infiltrate my dream state, because I can astral project as well. I can do remote viewing, and it's interesting because I can detect, I know when there's somebody kind of in my house or around me. I don't know if you can feel the same, Sacha, but it's kind of built into me. So this is why I don't like doing too much trance work or digging in too much unless I'm like highly protected, because it's just not worth it, all the kind of things that happen, and then also opening up that kind of the portal kind of thing, as I call it. You know, there's going to be a lot of phenomena, and that could be for different reasons, whether that's the residual energy or different locations or things like that.
Because you do transfiguration, what was it called? Transfigure mediumships, don't you? You actually, it's a word I can't get with. Transfiguration, is that the word?
Yeah. Well, I don't want people thinking I'm a trans person. I've got nothing against that, because I think I had someone listen to the show, they contacted me afterwards, and they were like, "Oh, you transitioned?" I was like, "No, I do transfiguration." Transfiguration,
yeah, okay, transfiguration.
Yeah, there's different things. So there's trance mediumship, and then there's transfiguration.
That's right, I know there's two different things. But do you remember, Sacha, when you were here in September last year, and Frank did the trance?
Yeah.
It was amazing,
I've
wasn't
never
it?
seen it like it. I've never seen anything like it. I've seen people saying that they're doing it, but they're not. They're just messing around with light.
When it happened,
but
I didn't think we were going to see anything. And
this was insane. So Frank sat there, and then I'm looking at him, and then to his left, there's like a yellow glow, just like almost like his head shape, but just a little bit out. So then I could see like faces drifting from the left across his face to the right, so where the right was where the yellow glow was, and there was like a black guy, there was a Chinese man, and then there was a man whose bottom lip had all been torn down and you could see the teeth. He had a big bushy beard and he had really long, like wavy hair.
Yeah, I could see his nose was shaped.
Clear,
yeah, it was weird.
Right? It was so clear, and then I saw on his stomach, it was like looking at, you know how water ripples, but it was like a blue, shiny, shimmery light. Mm-hmm. And I thought, yeah, you know, because I kind of just think, is it my eyes? And I'll look away and look back and, you know, do all this whenever I'm seeing something strange. I think, is there just something going on with my eyeballs? But that was the craziest thing I've ever seen.
But the thing was, we were all seeing it, weren't we? That was the thing. Like,
yeah.
You saw it, I saw it.
Yeah, that's what if you're good at what you do and you're genuine, that's what you'll see. You'll see a mixture of, probably first of all their guides coming through, then you'll see different apparitions of spirits, and then you'll see, maybe different deities or what I call like their elders, or loved ones coming through them. I mean, it's not an easy thing to do, and not everyone has that ability, and you have to be very careful with it because it takes a lot of energy to do so from the medium, and if it's not done properly, they can open themselves up to becoming possessed, or where an energy can attach to them, when you can form an attachment, or in some cases, and there have been cases over the years of some really phenomenal famous mediums back in the day that have died. You know, they don't reach old age because if you do it too much, as I said, in a way you're draining your life force. And if, you know, it's not conducted properly, it can have serious health issues. You can have a heart attack, you can fit, you can have a seizure, you can have a stroke. So it's not something to be taken lightly. And especially if ectoplasm happens, because some mediums have that ability to show and create ectoplasm. And again, that's their life force in a way. I know there's a lot of people out there who say that they're doing it, you know, but it's not an easy thing. And again, there's a lot of groups that claim that they can create kind of teleportation, but they'll do it in pitch blackness and you'll be blindfolded and things like that. I don't agree with that. I just think a lot of that is really conny and fakey, like fake. And I think there are people that claim to be transfiguration and they stick a light lamp onto their face, like a red lamp or something, or a blue lamp. And then they'll like have their hair slicked back and they'll be moving about and grunting and they'll have you in pitch dark and you have to sit quite far away. And I'm thinking to myself, you know, this is absolute crap, you know, like if you stick a light lamp underneath your face and, you know, you move to different sides, you're going to see shadows and things. But true transfiguration is where you actually see the face change because you're allowing spirit into your body. Yeah. And the face will change. The voice will change. The mannerism will change. And another good way to catch somebody out if they're a fake, and I love doing this, I'll go to some kind of places far away that people don't know me, and I'll go just as, you know, as my real name. I won't use my work name. And so they have no idea, and I've done this. And if a true medium is really in transfiguration, okay, they're not going to jump. They're not going to, unless you put the lights on, okay, they're not going to like check the time on their watch. They're not going to talk in their same voice. They're not going to necessarily make complete sense. Normally their heart rate will either drop or increase. Their breathing will change. You just clearly know this. And I've caught some of them out because when I've sat there, you know, they'll kind of pretend to be channeling, they'll be doing the heavy breathing. But then one, I'm not even going to say the name, but there was a so-called transfiguration medium that, you know, that you meant to have all your eyes closed, and I didn't, you know, I was kind of watching. And then halfway through, I caught them checking their watch. I'm not even kidding you, they were checking their watch looking for the time. And then another one, I was so bored, and I knew it was such crap, I actually got up to go to the toilet to walk out, and as I got up, they jumped, and then they looked straight at me, and then they then closed their eyes, and I'm like, that's another telltale sign. If you're in deep in, whether that's trance mediumship or whether you're doing transfiguration, you're not going to jump, and you're certainly not going to look at me or do those things, and you're not going to be able to break the conversation. And my voice now would be very different. I wouldn't be talking as myself. And I don't mean just heightening my voice or lowering my voice. I mean, it would be a completely different tone. So I could turn my voice to a man's voice.
Wow.
I could speak in a different language.
I've never experienced that. I mean, what we saw with Frank, that's probably the most amazing thing I've seen. We didn't hear Frank talk anything, did we, Sacha? He just did basically a visual thing.
I mean, some don't talk. I mean, it depends on how they connect. I mean, again, some might not even be able to hold a dialogue, because if you're doing it properly, the amount of energy it takes to be able to do that, it's so difficult. Some won't even have a conversation. Literally, what you were seeing and the amount of people coming in and out of him, that tells me that he's a very, very strong, powerful medium and very good at what he does. And to be able to show that level of it, it's certainly not easy, and it's something that definitely cannot be faked.
No, definitely not. No, definitely it wasn't faked. I didn't think I'd see anything happen, but
I had no expectations. I didn't know what was going to go on.
Did it in your mind when you saw that?
Yeah, because it was like he'd actually left his own body a little bit.
Yeah, they do.
With the glow, do you know what I mean? It was almost like that's him, and he'd moved to one side, and then these faces were just like, it wasn't like his face changed. They actually drifted across his face. They passed over his face like they were in motion, and, like we couldn't see them until they were on his face, and then they slid out to the other side. And then another face drifted in, and then another face drifted in. I saw quite a few, but I only really remember three. Three were very striking.
Definitely. I mean, he sat there for about a good 10 minutes before something started happening, didn't it, Sacha?
Yeah.
And then sort of, you gradually just saw something changing. Yeah, it was just weird. I mean, like the shape of his nose would actually change, and his hair outline would change.
Yes, it was a very... because I've never not believed in it. I didn't really believe it. I just thought that it's something that maybe a few people could do, but it being hijacked by the lunatic parade. Not that I'm saying that Frank's a lunatic, because he's not. He's a kung fu master as well. He's a Tai Chi master, Qigong. So he's got full control of his energy, So it was. I'm glad I've seen it, because I can be so sceptical, even considering everything that I've seen in my life and everything that I've gone through. I find myself ridiculous when I'm like questioning something, unless it is really ridiculous. But like poo-pooing things, people's abilities and what have you. Because, oh my God, I think I've probably seen it all, but I've never seen that. So, and the people that I have seen that are saying that they're doing it, they're just con artists. Yeah. So it just, to me, it's just like, oh yeah, that's all that fake stuff. Yeah, I do believe in people have abilities and everything, but I've never seen any evidence or any person that I could find that I felt was credible.
I think the thing was, he was so nonchalant about it as well, wasn't it? It wasn't anything, I can do this and I can do it. I mean, he sort of just said, do you want to see a bit of transfiguration? I still can't say it. Transfiguration, mediumship. And, and we thought, well, yeah, that sounds really good. And I didn't actually realise he was that type of medium.
Well, also outside, when I went outside, I felt like that piece of land to the side, at the back of your house, David, it felt like it was busy. And I kept looking at the tree line off in the distance and thinking, or feeling that people were standing there. Really? And, Frank, when we went outside, and he was stood with me, he told me, that he'd got an impression of a lot of people at the tree line, and I said, I thought the side of the house here was really busy. He said, yeah, I could hear people talking. I felt like I should be able to hear people talking, but I couldn't actually hear anything, but I was just looking at it, and then obviously then Frank starts doing that, and then afterwards I was thinking, well, were they all waiting for an opportunity, or were they all attracted to the energy because of Frank being how he is and what
because he was here,
do.
I suppose. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it could be.
Yeah. So, but you said that there was some graves or something, or a burial.
No, I don't actually know the history of this land over here. I mean, maybe Frank said something like that. No, I really don't know the history of the land around. The only thing I know about our property where we live is it used to be a breaker's yard many years ago. So then
but
the
that
land
whole
was cleared.
area, there's just been activity all over that area.
I mean, East
forever.
Anglia and Saxmund, and it was one of the earliest Saxon what they call it, settlements or whatever. Yeah. The funny thing was, I remember hearing the word the town Saxmund, and many years ago when I was a kid at school, which was weird, and to end up sort of living by it it's weird. But there you go. It's just one of those strange things. But
it's very nice around there.
It is. It's lovely around here. Yeah, nice and quiet. But, so anyway, Indigo, do you see us coming out of this? I know you said it's going to be a long haul, but do you think things are positive for us at the end of all this?
Yeah, I do. Like I've always said from the word go, from the start of all of this, I've always said, and if again you look back on my Facebook, even before it was even being put on the news and stuff like this, I always have said that I felt around sort of middle of June, moving into July, there would be changes, and which we're already seeing. The lockdown's kind of being lifted, more shops and things are opening up. For me, July, the middle of July has always felt more positive on a worldwide level. I think on many levels, on a vibrational level, I think with more positive things to hit the news, I think it's going to be around July. The middle of July for me just feels so much more positive. And I think it's almost going to be like a period of where, things just feeling so much better for everybody. We're going to hear more happier things hitting the news. Yeah. I think more people are going to feeling more kind of like life has got back to normal. I think, I've had people come and ask me, Indigo, when do you think holidays are going to start happening? When do you think shops are going to open? When do you think, we can return back to work? I've always stated even earlier on, I said, look, I thought it's going to be around July time. Yeah. The middle of July, as I keep saying, feels very positive. I think September for me as well is an interesting time. Again, I think for a lot of people, there's going to be more positive things happening for them. And I think around the end of July and then September, I think September is going to be really the turning point where I think this whole COVID thing, ironically, I feel like as quickly, because for me, it feels like it just appeared overnight. I don't know if this was like for other people, but it just felt like literally overnight, boom. And then I think by September, it's literally going to disappear as quickly as it kind of came in. And again, for me, September, I think there's going to be some interesting things happening there, but I think definitely more positive.
You can't see this second wave that they keep talking about.
No, I think it's gonna be something else happening. So as I've said to other people, look, 2020, this is a very, very difficult year. But through the difficulty, more and more people are awakening, Because again, I've said this with spiritual awakening. It doesn't happen with everything being amazing, nice and easy. Spiritual awakening happens when your ass gets kicked and your whole life is turned upside down. You feel like having multiple breakdowns and you lose everything. That's spiritual awakening. And I think on a worldwide level, we're having spiritual awakenings. I don't think that 2020 is going to be clean sailing. I don't think it's going to be a case of, right, COVID's gone, everything's going to be great and fantastic. I do think there's going to be a series of other chain of events. But I do think there are more things to come, but I don't necessarily think it's going to be a second wave. I do think there's going to be something else to hit. I think something is going to happen in India. And I think this is going to be on a kind of pandemic level. I don't think it's there yet. I don't think it's going to be the COVID, actually. I think it's going to be something else. And I do think it's going to be some sort of kind of disease or issue or something that's going to start really hitting the people out there. I can't pinpoint what it is. As I'm saying this, I'm going quite cold. I think it's going to be some sort of virus or sickness, I also think in England at some point, and I think it is going to be this year or by the end of the year going into next year. I think that something's going to happen around the water system. I think there may be some sort of another sort of virus or some kind of illness, but I don't think it's the COVID. I really don't. I don't mean to sound doom and gloom, okay, because people go, oh God, Indigo, you're doom and gloom. No, I'm just stating facts. I do think there is going to be a financial crash to happen. And I know people are going to go, well, you don't need a psychic to tell me that. But again, I just think there are going to be different things to happen that aren't so clear, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I do think financially there's going to be some issues there. I don't feel it's going to be a second wave as everybody is stating. I don't. I think holidays and things like that are going to open up around July, middle of July. I do think more travel is going to happen. My concern is more really around the whole vaccine type of things. I've got a horrible feeling that it's going to be becoming kind of mandatory. This whole Bill Gates thing.
But don't you think that would actually cause a lot of world unsettlement, because there's going to be a major amount of people that won't want to have that vaccine, and I think it could cause a lot of trouble.
No, I do, and I think that, and this is what I was saying at the start, a lot of people going, oh, COVID. No, I think a lot of the problems we're going to start seeing after it, and my fear is that this whole kind of vaccine thing, the way it's being pushed and the agenda is moving, it's going to be very much like, okay, if you want your kids to go back to school, they're going to need a vaccine to protect
like
them.
A passport
and I
type
think
of thing.
and I think where they're going to get people is if you're going to want to travel, if you're going to want to leave the country and do worldwide travel, and I travel a lot, they're going to be like, you're going to need that vaccine. And I, for one, certainly do not want a vaccine. Don't. And my fear is the trouble and the issues and the uproar is going to happen through pushing the vaccines and the aftermath of this COVID situation.
Because we've always heard that they want the microchip us all, don't they? Or the future generations more than us, maybe.
Exactly. And I think, again, when we said at the start, the agenda and other things kind of being masked and linked in with the whole COVID situation, for me, the whole Bill Gates thing was suddenly coming up with a vaccine and this. It's too convenient. Now, I've got family members, again, look, let me state, I'm not really massively for pharmaceutical companies. My father, he had a major heart attack, so I'm divided because, I'm very much about natural health, remedies, alternatives. But after he had a massive heart attack, there's no question about it. With our technology and with, the doctors and the care, they saved his life. Now, there's no natural supplement or health that could have helped him. With what happened with the heart attack, he had to have life-saving emergency, which I'm grateful and thankful for because it's given him, many more years. So it is really difficult to be like, oh, what, pharmaceuticals, they're terrible, they're this, they're that. I just try and keep it as natural as I can. And I, for one, personally do not like having poisons or toxins put into my body without being, informed, and unless I absolutely have to. But I do feel very uncomfortable with where this is going. And as I said, I have got family members that have worked in that kind of field, and I know how long it takes, to build a vaccine, how long it takes to do the pharmaceuticals. You don't just come up with it. It takes years, absolute years. And then suddenly, the COVID hits, and then now, they're talking about, they think that they've got a vaccine and they want to roll out trials. And they're talking about bringing it out around kind of like the end of July. It's just too, do you know what I'm saying?
Well, they haven't even got a cure for the common cold, have they? So.
Well, so they say, but yet it's too convenient for me. So I do think there's going to be some major kind of uproar, and you can see it already. It's already kind of
it's already bubbling around,
Definitely. I do think though there is going to be some more positivity, more positive things happening. Definitely. What about you, Sasha? What's your take?
I think, I think it's going to be a couple of years, and it's going to be peaks and dips for a while. I don't know really how they're going to manage it. They might start quarantining areas if it re-emerges, instead of locking the whole country down. once they get it down, if they get a treatment as well, I think that this kind of, not isolation as such, I think there could be a little bit more lax where families can see each other, because if you're keeping it tight, then you're keeping it tight no matter what, are you? So if you're both practicing the same hygiene, etc., then I don't see why you shouldn't be able to spend time with other people, because isolation is not good for you. But as with the Spanish flu, people had to wear masks, etc., for a couple of years. So I expect that this is going to kind of drag on, but there'll be some fine tuning of how they manage it. But yeah, I don't think it's fake, and I'm sick of hearing people dismissing people's deaths because they think that, oh well, if they had underlying health conditions, there's a lot of dismissal, and it's kind of denigrating as well, because these people have actually died. The thing that really gets to me is there's people saying that, well, what about all the flu deaths? Why aren't the people talking about the flu deaths? And then the next breath they'll say that, it's not as bad as they're saying, it's just a bad flu. Well, you've just been talking about flu deaths, and now you're saying it's a bad flu. Can you not hear yourself?
Yeah.
So I get a bit agitated with it, but, you can't control what people think, or what, you just have to ignore it. But I think that people are going to come undone a little bit, because thinking that it's fake, you're not going to be as careful as maybe other people are. And I don't know, I think some people are getting sick who previously didn't believe it. I've seen a couple of videos of people saying it's not fake, it's really real. I didn't believe it before, but now I know it's real, I don't know. There's definitely
something out there, but I think it's the origin of it that's the problem. Where it actually came from and where it started. Was it started from Chinese eating bats, or was it actually an experiment that went out before? I think it was actually started before that.
Yeah, I think it's been around. I mean, I got really sick actually, probably about 6 months ago. I mean, I have asthma anyway, but when I went to Morocco, and previous to that actually, I had a really bad kind of like what I thought it was a chest infection, and I just couldn't recover from it, and I was really sick, I was coughing, I couldn't breathe, literally when I was lying down, I couldn't breathe, I couldn't get sleep, it was horrendous, I felt like my lungs were on fire. I went to the doctors, they gave me a round of amoxicillin. As I said, I absolutely hate pharmaceuticals, and believe me, I try to not go to the doctors, but everything that I would normally do was not working. So I went, they said it should work, so I took, a week's worth of amoxicillin, didn't touch it, didn't work, did nothing, went back, they said give me a stronger dose, I was like, fine, didn't work, they wanted to give me steroids, I was like, not happening. Then they sent me off for chest x-rays, they did chest x-rays, and they said, they couldn't really see anything. The chest x-rays, it was kind of baffling to them. They tried to give me, forced the steroids on me, and I told them, look, I don't want steroids. You've already given me amoxicillin. I'd rather try and fight this off, whatever this is. So they just put it down to like a really bad kind of chest infection or something viral.
There's been a lot of those about. I mean, I had it, Jill's had it for about 6 months. It took a long time to fight it off,
Yeah, it just wouldn't shift. But in the end, it kind of went on its own. But then it kind of came back again at the end of Morocco before the COVID hit. I got hit with it again. It came back with a vengeance. So then they put me on amoxicillin again, a really strong round of it, and again it didn't really do too much. And then it kind of went on its own. I wouldn't say that I to this day even feel 100%, but for me, now looking back on it, and I've researched this, there have been other people that have stated that they think that COVID was around, or what we know to be COVID-19, even before that they claimed it had been, hit in this country. So there's a part of me, and I can't be 100% sure, because I haven't been tested, and it's difficult to know this unless I find the antibodies in the system. I think that maybe I had a lot of those symptoms, and a lot of people now are coming forwards and saying, I think I've already had COVID without realizing it. So I don't know. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I honestly don't know.
As a matter of interest, do you have the flu jab?
No,
I
haven't.
Because I had a little bit of a theory, because we both had the flu jab, and it seemed like about a week or two after that we both went down with like flu-like symptoms. But
see, that's interesting. So I've heard other people say the same thing, and I know family members have had it, and I said to them, no, don't do it. But like they're stubborn, they're going to do what they're going to do. I haven't actually, but I personally feel, and I've said this to other people, I don't believe it came from bats. I just don't. It doesn't resonate, it doesn't sit right with me when I've tuned into it. The information that was shown, it wasn't a bat. I've said this consistently. I do think this is man-made. I do think it was created in a lab. It's difficult to know whether it was leaked accidentally or deliberately, or who knows. There's so many different kind of takes and so-called, people came in conspiracy theories. I personally, if I had to, if I was really made to sort of say what I really think, okay, I don't think it was an accident. If I was the betting person and I had to lay a bet on it, I would say it was released deliberately. For what reasons? There's so many reasons, but I do think this has been designed. I do think it's been pre-orchestrated. I do think it's part of the bigger plan, so to speak. And I do think, again, without sounding too like mumbo jumbo, I do think there's a massive shift already happening, and there's a divide between so many people. And I knew this year for 2020, and I've always stated this, I felt like there was going to be quite a few deaths, a lot of different people passing over. And I know that there are different people that have different theories and takes on this, but I believe that there's so much more to this than we can understand right now. And as many people are kind of passing over and shifts are happening, I think more and more people are waking up than ever before. There are people that, in my local shop, that never talked about conspiracy theories, that never really spoke about agendas and stuff, that now who are what you would deem really just normal average people, that watch EastEnders, Coronation Street, they're not into any of this psychic stuff. They're now sitting there going, Indigo, I think there's something much more at work here.
A lot of people have got that. I agree with you.
Here. Yeah, and even talking about conspiracy stuff, going, I actually think this is real, and saying, there's something not right about this. People are feeling it, because I believe that everyone has psychic ability. I think we're born with psychic ability, but I think that not all of us have it opened or we're in tune with it. So I do think that there's major things happening on Earth with our world and with us. But I just think the COVID is really just the tip of the iceberg, unfortunately.
No, I tend to agree with you. I've always said right from the start there was something funny going on with the whole thing. It just happened too quick, didn't it?
It doesn't sit right. It just doesn't sit right, and there just seems to be too many kind of convenience with this, and especially with all the vaccines and the whole Bill Gates situation.
It all basically kicked off just after you'd been on the previous show with me, hadn't it? And
yeah.
We sort of just said, we have to do this again, and all of a sudden there was the toilet paper shortage and the lockdown.
See, I'm going to go down in history, right? On my toilet paper predictions, I could be known as the arsewipe psychic.
Well, I'll tell you, I took notice. I went out and bought a couple of packs anyway. I was all right, so.
I know. Can you believe that though? The prophecy literally 24 hours later. And well stocked up.
Anyway, have you got any sort of you got anything planned? Have you got? I know you probably have some trips planned, but they've been cancelled.
Staying alive.
Yeah. Apart from that, I mean, because I know you do travel a lot, but have you had plans cancelled or postponed?
Well, I did plan to go back to Egypt. I wanted to go back out there before this whole COVID situation happened. And again, interesting enough, you know, I've got family out there and I was speaking to them because I know some people have been saying, oh, you know, the COVID, it's 5G, that's what's causing it. Well, interesting enough, like in Egypt, they don't really have much signals with like, they're not that developed in a lot of places. So when I go out there, it's a nightmare. Even to get internet, you really just can't get it. And even in the upcoming places, you can't. And let me tell you, they certainly don't have 5G out there. And when I was speaking to one of my cousins, you know, they were asking me like, how are you doing? You know, because out there, they're on lockdown and it's a lot stricter. And I said to them, look, what's going on? Are you having issues out there? And a lot of people dying. There's been a lot of COVID deaths that are not being reported by the media. In fact, more are dying out there than here in England, and it's not being reported. And, you know, they're in the desert, you know, some of them are tribal people, and they don't even really have mobile phones, they don't have any of this. So just for the people that think and going on about the 5G and saying that actually the 5G are causing this COVID situation, it's not, because they don't have 5G, and they certainly have the COVID situation out there, and there are certainly a lot of deaths that are happening at the moment. With the 5G, I absolutely think it's toxic, and I do think, you know, that is going to cause major problems, and there will be sickness from that. I just wanted to throw that out there as well.
I think the assumption is that's the 5G is COVID, but it's not. I think that apparently it gives the same symptoms. It's not the same thing, but it gives the same symptoms.
Well, it's radiation poisoning, so yeah, because that's what 5G is. It's radiation. And
unfortunately, I think we've got to wait and see how that develops, haven't we? Unfortunately, that's going to be the case.
That makes me feel extremely uncomfortable because it's, you know, it's out of our power, you know, because they are banging up all the 5G masks, and I know people going, yeah, well, you know, you can get doubly fast internet, and I'm like, yeah, you can doubly die faster, you know, it's insanity. Yeah. But going back to the question about my plans, yeah, I plan to go to Egypt, but that obviously been postponed. I personally think flights, as I said, will be opened up around middle of July. Once they open up, I do hope to travel. I want to go back out there. Definitely want to reconnect with my family.
Is this for professional reasons? Because I know you know, for your psychic profession, I mean, you know, really.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna go out there for a holiday to chill. But then I do work out there as well, because I do have connections. I've read for, you know, people out there, businessmen. You know, I've read for some of the royal families, some of the sectors out there. And then I want to go to Thailand as well. I want to go to some other places. Just purely for holiday, and I just like to connect with people as well in different cultures. But also, again, hoping to kind of read. And also, I love to go out and connect with a lot of the different tribes when I go out. I like to connect with shamans. I like to connect with other kind of seers, because I'm really interested with how they work, how they channel. I like to kind of experience their ways and learn and teach and learn from each other the different ways. And again, I'm always trying to kind of practice and hone my skills, and taking, you know, different philosophies and learning different ways, but I connect very much with the ancient ways. I'm very traditional in a lot of ways. I think I'm quite an ancient soul. I'm not so much for these kind of like workshops or kind of like the Arthur Findlay College or all the kind. I'm not like that. For me, I've always been taught the old ancient traditions. And as a witch, as a seer, you know, we come in different names. I'm very much about the palmistry. I'm about the coffee cup readings. I'm about the ancient tools. I mean, as a psychic, I don't need to have these props, you know. I work with energy. But for me, I do think it's a dying trade, and I want to bring it back. I want to bring the ancient ways back to help people reconnect with their ancestries, the ancients, and their elders.
There you go. Sacha, you got anything more to say?
Well, it's funny, I've been thinking about my ancestors and family tree, and, you know, who were the people that came before me. As far as 5G and all that is concerned, I'm not even interested in talking about it because I don't know.
I think that's the thing, we don't know, do we, really? That's the problem.
No. Well, no, and, you know, we are already exposed to all these radiations as well. We've been exposed to them for a long time. I've actually wondered if things like fibromyalgia might be connected to the electronic smog that we're exposed to all the time. But, you know, what you're going to do, technology is not going to go away. You know, it's going to get more and more technological, and I don't know.
That's why I love going away and going out literally to the desert, or going to just faraway places where I can just, you know, get away from the whole technology and the internet and the fast pace of things.
Yeah.
Just to kind of like go into my own little bubble and just wear a giant bit of shungite or a nice bit of like amethyst.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good move, Indigo. Anyway.
Just a quick question.
Yeah, go on.
Sorry, I just asked a quick question. This just came to me. I know it's going to sound like a really weird question, but do you know your blood type? Have you got quite a rare blood type? Or what would be deemed a rare blood type?
Or Sacha?
No, Sacha.
No, but my mum's got the rarest blood type there is.
Ah, okay. I just wanted to ask that because I know that sometimes certain people that are deemed or have been tested and have a rare blood type, they equally can have some interesting like encounters or activity around them, and that just came to me now. I just wanted to ask that.
Yeah, my mum, she's AB negative. She's always had paranormal activity, and she's had, been part of abductions with me. She calls it dreams, but I know what happened to me, and she just told the same story, but she said it was a dream, and I was like, it wasn't a dream. So, yeah, she's AB negative. I'm O positive.
Right, okay.
I'm not sure what my sister is.
That was interesting, that just came to you like that, Indigo.
I know, just random, this is what I mean, it's random things that just come to me, randomly just throw it out there, and it was just strongly just came to me, and I just wanted to ask that. And also with the abductions, have you found that they've come back to you like later on, whether that's through kind of like, I know that some people have had like past life regressions, or in hypnotherapy, it's suddenly kind of come out unexpectedly, and they never realised that they'd actually been abducted, or it's happened all through their life as children, and then they get to a certain age, and it all kind of floods back, but it's through a different kind of encounter. It could be through counselling for something else, and then it triggers that kind of suppressed thought, and then you get like literally hit with everything, and then you're like, oh my god, and then you're starting to connect all the dots and remembering like a whole load of stuff that you've completely just wiped out, it just feels like a completely different life.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, there's a few things that I have always remembered but not really thought about, and but you know, little random things, and then all of a sudden with these glasses on, I can see it for what it was and for what it is. But like I've always had experiences. I saw a UFO when I was 12. But we've always had paranormal activity around us. My mum, she attracts it. I attract it. My sister does, I think, because, she can't go to sleep without the light on and the TV on. So what's she trying to drown out and, you know, feel, what's she trying to protect herself from? So, but obviously, she was exposed to the same paranormal activity as I was, because we lived in the same house. But most of my experiences were paranormal. Then I had a UFO encounter. I've seen a UFO, but having it like very up close, it targeted us. You know, it's kind of just it opens you up, doesn't it, to other stuff? So,
and I think once it opens up, it's like literally like,
yeah, it just comes pouring in, and then like the memories. When in 2012, when something happened, it took me about, maybe 7 months to piece everything together to get a full picture. But I kept remembering snapshots. I remembered a lot. The next day, I remembered it in the morning because I know it hadn't long since happened. But then it was 4 months later when one of my children said something to me about something that happened, and then it made me realise, oh my God, that night happened in January, and they're just telling me about it now. So it took a while to kind of piece that one together, but I'd never had hypnosis, and I've tried twice now, and I just can't do it. I can't relax back into anything, and I don't really want to remember anymore because I'm juggling a lot already, and and when I joined the UFO community, it got worse and more happened to me. And so in the past 15 years, I've had a lot happen, and it's all been quite traumatic and really disruptive. It's disrupted me and disrupted my life massively, and made me quite poorly, and I'm getting, I'm not so poorly now, but I'm still traumatized by a lot of it. And I've got a lot of recall, and I've never had any hypnosis, so I don't really want any because I don't know what to do with what's in my head already. I've got nowhere to put that, so I've got nowhere to put more. And quite frankly, I just don't want to potentially re-traumatise myself, because I've worked hard, and I work hard every day at not drowning in the, questions and the realizations of the things that sort of lie behind the things that I've seen. There's something else going on, there's something more going on, but I cannot know my own life. I will never know my own life. Maybe I'll find out when I die, but right now I cannot have the answers to any of the most pressing questions that I've got, and there is no way to properly cleanse myself of any of it, because you just can't take the impact of an event away. So, I've struggled a lot in the UFO community, and, everybody's seen that. You meet a lot of liars, and you meet a lot of people who are taking advantage of others, and there's all of these people doing all of these things. But when you come to the community and you're completely on your arse and you don't know anything about anything, and you get, trolled, assassinated, people calling you liars, saying that you've stolen your account or whatever, and it's just a waste of time. It's a waste of life. So I'm very disappointed in the UFO community, because it hasn't got its act together at all. In all of the years that all of it's been going on, they're still shunning people like me. All the positivity, it's all fine. But as soon as I start talking about mine, people go, well, we don't all have the same experiences. So they just shut you down all the time, because they don't want to hear the negative stuff, because it interferes with their, badly engineered coping mechanisms that they've made out of other people's misery. Yeah. Because they're just liars. Most of them are just liars. Yeah. And then they call you the liar. And at the moment, I'm just I'm so done with it all, because why would I want to share what I've been through with people who everything's just so meaningless to them, so throwaway, and if anything you say jars what they believe, then they lose it. I'm just sick of social media So I don't really know what I want to do with myself anymore, in which direction I want to go in, because obviously I can't walk away from it because it's inside me, and it happens to me, and it's probably going to happen again. You know, it's a lot to deal with, it's a lot to cope with, and none of it has been nice and fluffy, and no message for mankind, and no message for me and my, you know, what my mission is or whatever. It's just been harsh, hard, freaky, frightening, actually terrified out of my mind. You know, and like I just can't be bothered going in the same circles. So I don't mean in circles of people, I mean feel like I'm chasing my own tail a lot. So I'm having a little bit of a time out so I can decide how I want to proceed. Because it's just, why do I want to fight all the time just to tell my story when I want to tell my story? Because I know that there's other people out there that have been crushed by this, just like I was. I mean, I've recovered a lot, I've built myself up a lot, but I was a mess. I was a total mess, and all people did was add to the mess. And then go, oh, look at that mess, you know. What do you expect? What do people think it's going to do to them? You know, like, enlighten them, and so they can just float around in a fugue of happiness for the rest of their lives. It's a harsh reality. You know, it's so, I don't really know how I'm gonna proceed, but I know that I'm not walking away. I'm sick of saying that. You know, I've stopped deactivating my account.
I always say to people, you know, people go to me, oh, Indigo, it must be amazing being you. It must be so cool having your abilities and seeing the future. And I say and they go, you know, I wish I could be. And I always say to them, be careful what you wish for. As much as, you know, I see what I do sometimes as a blessing, it's also a curse. There's no question about it. If I could come back again, I certainly wouldn't have this ability. It's not something I signed up for. It's not something I choose to be. It chose me. And it carries a great weight. And as much as it might look glamorous, it might look easy, it might look amazing and fun, it's not. Because some of the stuff I see is you know, you're touching upon. And it isn't just with the psychic stuff. I've seen a lot more than just psychic visions or a card reader, as, you know, sometimes people will call me, or a fortune teller. You know, when you're seeing really horrific images playing out, and you know that there's certain, you know, you can't change that. You can't do anything about it. You just have to let it happen. It is traumatizing. And especially, you know, when you are communicating with higher beings, other than just spirit, you know, because there's a lot of mediums and psychics that talk about, you know, love and light and the angelic vibration, and they refuse to acknowledge or see that there can be anything demonic or any ETs, or they say to me, oh, you know, you're odd, Indigo, you're a bit of an oddball, you're crazy. I'm like, hang on, you tell me you speak to spirit, you tell me you speak to angels, and I personally, again, you know, I sit on the fence with the angelic realm. I do believe in archangels, but I do think you know, angels could possibly be sort of alien beings too. And again, that's a whole different subject. I'm like, you know, you must be really ignorant to believe. You can believe in this, but you can't believe that there's anything more than that, you know, in a whole solar system. That's really ignorant to me, you know. And again, you know, you get these UFO wannabes, or, you know, making a career out of it, and they make it sound really glamorous and amazing, and I'm like, hang on, it's not. You know, as I said at the start, you know, spiritual awakening is certainly not an easy thing. And when I personally came face to face and had an experience, I literally thought like I was going to have a breakdown, and it completely turned my whole life upside down, because I started to question my whole reality, and everything I believed to be real, literally in a space of a night, completely changed. So I was questioning my whole life. Had it been a complete lie? Everything I believed in, you know, was it a lie? I didn't know if I was coming or going. And that stuff completely shakes you up, on top of not being able to turn to anyone, not being able to talk to anybody. And as you said, you know, there are a lot of people that exploit the vulnerability. And then there's so many different kind of takes. And I've also had the kind of snobbery and the kind of, you know, well, you're a psychic, what would you know? Why would you be having communications with, you know, UFOs or you know. And I'm like, well, I don't know. I don't know why they're communicating with me, but this is what I've seen. This is my story. And it's sometimes like hard to be kind of heard, but all I can say is, Sacha, you just need to go, stay with your integrity, stay with your truth. And the people that really have had genuine experiences, they will gravitate to you because they will know your truth. Because, you know, you can't make this stuff up. You just can't. And anyone that truly has experienced this phenomena will know that you're talking the truth. You know, the fake people, the people that are just in it for the money and in it for fame, you know what, they'll be outed. Because one thing I believe, the good thing about this year, that a lot of fakes are going to be shown. A lot of people in the spirit community and the ET community, they're going to be shown to be what they are. They're going to be shown to be fraudulent and fake. And they are literally, their downfall is coming. And the people that are real and credible, you know, they don't choose to be leaders. They don't choose to be in the spotlight. But they're coming forwards now because they know that they need to. And I know that, you know, you said you don't really know your mission, you don't know why you're here, such, you know, you just had these experiences. And there's a part of you know that whether you go off Facebook, whether you disappear, whether you disconnect from everyone, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. So just by you speaking out and being there, other people can find you and you can help them. And, you know, your story in some way can give, you know, it can give them peace in some way because, you know, someone can go, oh my God, you know what? I'm not alone. I can resonate with this person because they know what I'm going through. And just in that, there's so much power knowing that, you know, we're not alone. There's other people that are going through this.
Yeah.
There you go. I mean, we know of one or two that are heading for a downfall. That'll be such a
Yeah. It's slowly falling.
Like the tower. The tower card in the tarot. Surely, but surely it will be shown.
Anyway, ladies, I think we'll probably leave it there if you're okay with that. It's been great talking to you both, and I thought it would be good getting you both together. You know, you've made my life easy tonight. I'll just sort of sit back, and apart from a few words, I couldn't get my teeth round, but there you go. But anyway, thanks, Sacha, for coming on and helping out. And
no, thank you. Enjoyed it.
Call you up for the next one. And thank you, thanks Indigo for coming back on to make it another fascinating show. And hope you'll make that visit when we're all out of lockdown.
Take care,
Sacha.
Yeah, take care. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye. You've been listening to Paranormal Dimensions on the Paranormal UK Radio Network. I'm David Young. Hope you'll join us again next week. Thank you. Goodbye.
Listen to them. Children of the night. What music they make.
Paranormal Dimensions is a regular feature on Mondays on the Paranormal UK Radio Network.